Hello, everyone. Welcome back for part 3 of the week of August 27th, 2018. Sorry, I've been a little slow getting this up. There are two reasons. One, there's a ton of material in here, and so it took me a while to get everything set up for you. And two, I handed out 900 laptops this week at my job, and I've been a little bit gassed. So I'm also hiding from you as far as I'm not putting my face in these videos because it's Saturday morning, and I'm looking a little rough around the edges. I'm still in my jammies. So I hope you don't miss me too badly. And here we go on our content for the week. One of the reasons I'm trying to get lectures out to you a little bit more quickly right at the beginning is because I want to make sure you've had an overview of a variety of literatures or genres so that you can make good selections as you work through our reading lists. So let's talk about urban lit. Also called street lit, gangsta lit, hip hop lit. It is increasingly popular. No kidding. I get asked for this type of book or literature all the time in my high school library. The purpose: we want to be meeting the reading needs of socioeconomically disadvantaged urban teens, or socioeconomically disadvantaged suburban teens, or even rural teens. But our lives are not all Pollyanna. Their lives are not all Pollyanna. We want to be offering things that they like to read. Very often it's gritty, raw, and controversial. I've only had 2 book challenges in 20 years as a school librarian, and one of them was an urban lit title. There are potential censorship issues. There are controversial topics and bad language, though if you've ever walked down a high school hallway, you have to pretend like you're deaf because you hear lots of bad language, at least at my high school, which is a really good high school, but it's still rough around the edges. So I will also tell you that I do a little bit of self-censorship on urban literature, but I'll talk about that in a later slide. Some examples of urban literature includes there's a series by Co Booth, including Tyrell, Kendra, and Bronxwood. And I realized as I was creating this slide that I have Tyrell and Kendra in my school library, but I don't have Bronxwood, and I'm going to get it. It is, of course, about teens in the Bronx. These are still very popular at my library. Particularly the Tyrell, there is a picture of the back of a young man's head, and he has cornrows. I think for lots of kids, it's so refreshing to see a child or a young person that looks like them. So I highly recommend these. The Blueford High Urban Teen Series is by more than one author. One of them is Paul Langan. I think the other one is a female author with the last name of Schraff. I've forgotten her first name off the top of my head. They are by the Townsend Press. I think there's one other author whose name I don't recall. Anyway, the Blueford High Teen Series, they are paperback generally. They are tiny. They are quick reads. They are so popular. I need to replace some of these at my high school library as they have been worn out. So even if you don't really like the writing in these, the kids love them. You need to have them. The Drama High series by Elle Devine. It's a little bit of a quirky series. I think there are 18. I think I have 15 of them. I need to get the last 3. These are also super popular. I had 4 copies of each of the first 15 books. All of the first book at my library have disappeared, and I need to reorder them. They're quirky because there's a little bit of magical realism in these, or a little bit of, there's a slight fantasy element, but they're really very realistic as far as relationships, situations, all that good stuff. Just the main character has a little bit of a magical ability, which I thought was kind of interesting about this series. The alternative series, Bridge and Others by Patrick Jones. Patrick Jones can be a little bit edgy also, of course. Hopefully you've heard of him. He's been around for a while and has been a very popular both teen librarian and then now young adult writer. So The Bridge is about 18-year-old Jose, who serves as a bridge between his non-English speaking family and the rest of the world. And because his parents are illegal immigrants and his extended family lives with them, money is tight. So Jose works nights and arrives at school so tired that his teachers at his alternative high school step in to help. This is a very realistic portrayal situation. It's many of my students at my high school are in this situation, whether they are Hispanic and the bridge or just the the working outside of school and then being exhausted. I have many students who are DACA or of questionable legality in the country, and they need our support. They need our encouragement. And so having books that reflect their lives, I think, is just super important. I realized as I was preparing for this class and preparing these slides that street literature is one place where I can actually do a little bit more improvement in my collection. If you are looking at a collection, working in a library, either public or a school library, take a peek at your collection, use your catalog. And if you see that you are missing some of these titles, you might want to look at purchasing some of them. So look in this, in the article, Using Urban Fiction to Engage At-Risk and Incarcerated Youths in Literacy Instruction. There are 100 street literature titles arranged by theme. It's a great way to do some purchasing and get some ideas as far as thematic units if you are in a school. Hill wrote in 2008, the street fiction genre provides an extraordinary opportunity for teachers to make effective use of students' interests and lived experiences in the service of high-quality English education. I have gotten into debates with some of the English teachers at my school. Some of them are old school and want to teach the canon. I believe that English teachers should teach both the canon and some urban or up-to-date or realistic young adult fiction and can balance both. I believe our jobs as librarians is not so much to push the canon, it is to encourage kids to love reading. So we need to get stuff in their hands that they want to read. Other selection tools for urban literature include the Reader's Advisory Guide to Street Literature by Vanessa Irvin Morris. This was published in 2012, so it's a little outdated, though it can definitely help you build a base or a background or a foundation in your library when you get to one, or if you're in one. You can also check out her blog, again, Vanessa Irvin Morris, at www.streetliterature.com if you want up-to-date recommendations. There is also a Street Literature Book Awards page on Facebook. And you can also look at streetfiction.org, which covers both young adult and adult street fiction. I would warn you, if you are working in a school, to be very careful purchasing adult street fiction. It is definitely on the racy side, so you want to make sure you get some book reviews or review before you purchase and put them out. So that's just my little warning there. And obviously, I'm not promoting censorship, but I also would like you to keep your jobs and think ahead, because this genre is more likely to be challenged. So be ready. All right, so if you read some street fiction or some of this realistic fiction and you're like, oh, this stuff is so depressing and grim, to those who lament the shift from happy books, like the early YA stuff, which was all romance or adventure, Dorothy Broderick chides, there were no good old days. Every problem confronted in a young adult novel today was known to most of us. There were drunks in families, there were wife abusers, child molesters, there was divorce, death and dying, premarital sex, and abortions. Unfortunately, I think this is true. These have been around forever. They just didn't get talked about. Now kids actually have an opportunity to talk about this stuff, look for help in books, or even ask their librarian. I've been asked for help multiple times in my 20 years as a school librarian, and I know public librarians are big helpers also in helping people find resources when their lives are not going correctly. So what makes young adult novels so successful, or what makes the urban lit genre so successful? First, they have the potential to touch readers deeply so that in the struggle with it, they begin to see and to shape themselves. That's a quote from Mark Aronson, who is a YA author, editor, and speaker. You can access his website, which is posted on here below. Young adult or urban literature invests young hearts and minds with tolerance, understanding, empathy, acceptance, compassion, kindness, and more. And that's from Michael Cart, the author of our textbook. I believe I had that on another slide earlier. I can't emphasize this enough. I believe our culture at the moment is lacking in empathy. I think spending too much time on social media and Snapchatting and all sorts of stuff decreases kids' empathy. I don't have any studies for that, but there are studies that say reading fiction increases a person's sense of empathy. We'll see if I can find that and post that on another slide later in the semester. But there are studies that say if we read more, we have more empathy. So keep that in mind. We want to encourage this in our young people. Fortunately, realistic fiction is more than just problem novels. Hooray! There's other fun stuff out there. So if you have students that ask you for humor, and you will have them, I have them, or patrons that ask you for humor, a good site for that, this is the Laugh Out Loud list. It's on the Teen Reading Rocks page that is done by WHS Library in South Dakota by Carrie Smith. She's the curator. It's a great list of young adult humor reads. Tossing you one of my favorites, I Love You, Beth Cooper. That almost got on our novel into film assignment, but it didn't. That came out in 2007. I checked it out to a child yesterday. It is quite funny. I used to have 5 copies. I'm down to 2 and need to buy a couple more because that still goes out a lot. Mysteries and thrillers, the Get a Clue page, also on the Teen Reading Rocks site by Carrie Smith. So I have kids definitely ask me for mysteries or thrillers. I would recommend to you, just a personal favorite, is the Christopher Killer series by Elaine Ferguson. There are 4 books in that series. The first one came out in 2008. Any child who comes to you and says, hey, I really like CSI on TV or any of those mysteries on TV, the Christopher Killer is great because the main character's father is a coroner and she has some forensic investigative skills. They're obviously realistic and they're really fun and kind of creepy. There's a gross out factor, so just to warn you and warn your students or your patrons if you're recommending those. In the category of wilderness and survival, I can't recommend Gary Paulson enough. Hatchet, of course, is the classic from 1996. Kids who like wilderness and survival stuff also, they don't know it, but they would like National Geographic. Some libraries are moving away, particularly school libraries are moving away from periodicals. I still do get a variety of periodicals, mostly for entertainment. Nat Geo is one of the ones I get. I'm entertained by it, but I also recommend it to lots of different students. I'm like, hey, take a peek at this article. And then I get them hooked. So I like having magazines in my library, and Nat Geo is one that still gets read. And I have teachers come in and ask for it too. So anyway, about Gary Paulson, he's amazing as far as adventure, wilderness, survival. He also has a great book called My Life in Dog Years, which is super easy, but if you're a dog person, that's great. And the wilderness and survival books very often appeal to your guys who are the hunting and fishing type guys. So if you have some of those guys as patrons in your library, think about your wilderness survival books and beef up on those. There's also another one called Peak, and the author is escaping my brain at the moment, on our suggested reading list. Sports books. Y'all, guys come in, and some girls come in and ask for sports books. I get asked for these all the time. So some sports writers, and there are others on our suggested reading list, include Paul Volpone, Carl Duiker, Chris Crutcher, our old favorite Walter Dean Myers. Do not discount these folks. There are other new people writing. Keep an eye out for these. It is a high request, high demand area. If you have not read any Chris Crutcher, even though he's a little bit of an older author, gosh, he's fantastic. There's just emotional depth in those and a lot of humor. I really like Chris Crutcher. Romance, of course. I get asked for romance books all the time. Teens are very interested in romance, mostly girls, some boys. Some gender questioning kids looking for romantic books with gender questioning characters, or exploratory people exploring their sexuality. So romance and love stories are big, big, big. Again, this is on the Teen Reading Rocks page by Carrie Smith. She has curated some great lists, so Falling in Love and Romance Reads, and I'll make sure I post these as PowerPoint slides so that you can click on the links so you don't have to go searching for them. But you could also search for Carrie Smith and Teen Reading Rocks if you're interested in looking at these lists. All right, so part of the reason I'm pushing some of the urban lit, sports, wilderness is that there is a gender-related gap in reading scores between our young men and our young women. So the research says that there is a gender gap in literacy. Girls have outscored guys in reading since the National Association of Educational Progress began testing in 1971. In the US, females outscore males on the most recent administration of 8 valid national tests, and the gaps are statistically significant. It's not just a little bit. Worldwide problem on the 2012 Program for International Study Assessment, the PISA. Hopefully you've heard of that if you're in education. 15-year-old females outperformed males in all 65 participating countries. It's not just the US, it's all over. It's in Jordan, it's in Yemen, it's in Saudi Arabia, it's in Finland, it's everywhere. Girls are outperforming boys on reading tests. This is something that we need to address worldwide. It's big. We need to get our boys reading. I have raised 2 boys who are readers, but my older son has commented to me multiple times that our household is not normal as far as the amount of reading material that is available in it. So most kids don't grow up with a librarian for a mom, which means they're not getting pushed to read. We all need to work together to address this. But that's why you're here, I think. Anyway. So how do we get our guys reading? I highly recommend the webpage called Guys Read by John Skiska. Hopefully you recognize John's name because he is a prolific writer for young adults and children. I certainly read The Stinky Cheese Man to my children when they were younger, my boys when they were younger, and they loved it. Of course, it has the word stinky in the title, which is beneficial. And that is a play on the gingerbread man. Guys Read offers lists, great lists for books that appeal to boys, like The Day My Butt Went Psycho. I don't remember the author's name to that, but that's, it's all sorts of titles like that that are super appealing to guys and some girls too. Don't limit yourself. But Skiska is really trying to get more boys reading. Lots of boys like graphic novels, superheroes in particular, but all types of graphic novels. They're into humor, potty humor, all sorts of humor, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, even in high school, that type of humor. The wilderness and survival stories, lots of sports. Boys seem to be a little bit more interested in audiobooks because you can do other things with your hands or keep busy while you're listening. Audiobooks are also a great way to have students parallel read. Boys who are reluctant or not comfortable readers or not fluent readers, if they can read and listen at the same time, that is a great way to encourage greater literacy. Another area where you will get multiple requests for our young ladies, because we want to be encouraging them to read also, is chick lit. Written by women for women, often a more personal and humorous tone. You can have multiple topics in chick lit. Usual issues: love, marriage, dating, relationships, friendships, roommates, sometimes corporate environments, weight issues, addiction, and more. Goodreads has a great list of best YA chick lit. Please take a look at that. I promise you, you get this request a lot, the romance request, the drama in relationships request. Young women come in and ask me for chick lit type things, or you can also have the Gossip Girls seems to be very popular with young women, that type of thing. I already talked about the Drama High series by Elle Devine. Lots and lots of young ladies looking for these or other titles. Check out that Goodreads list. There's excellent recommendations. So our next genre is biographies, autobiographies, memoirs. This is on our reading list. You can choose from one of the following 6 titles or others. Just make sure it's got some recent reviews. It's a recent book and it's got good reviews. All right, so Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. If you're not familiar with her name, you should be. She's prolific and excellent. The Family Romanov by Candace Fleming. The Notorious Benedict Arnold, A True Story of Adventure, Heroism, and Treachery by Steve Sheinkin. Terrible Typhoid Mary, A True Story of the Deadliest Cook in America by Susan Campbell Bartoletti. She's also a fairly prolific writer. Undefeated, Jim Thorpe and the Carlisle Indian School by Steve Sheinkin. And Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh Brothers by Deborah Heiligman. Brown Girl Dreaming is by Jacqueline Woodson. It came out in 2014. She tells the story of her childhood in verse. Raised in South Carolina and New York, Woodson always felt halfway at home in each place. In vivid poems, she shares what it was like to grow up as an African American in the 1960s and 70s. That's from the WorldCat. It has 6 starred reviews. It was a National Book Award winner. This is on the summer reading list. I can't remember which grade. I think it's the sophomore summer reading list for my high school, so it does get checked out frequently. I don't know that it would get checked out without teachers pointing it out or librarians pointing it out, but it does get circulated in my school. It might be something that you take a look at so that you're ready to recommend it, because biography is not the biggest mover in a high school library or perhaps a public library. But there's some excellent stuff in biography. I also have a teacher at my school that always does a biography unit, and so that allows me to push out some of the excellent biographies that are on this list and other things. The Notorious Benedict Arnold by Steve Sheinkin. This came out in 2010. It's an accessible biography, and it introduces young readers to the real Arnold, who was reckless, heroic, and driven, packed with first-person accounts, astonishing American Revolution battle scenes, and surprising twists. It's a gripping and true adventure tale from history. I have kids who come in and ask for war stories, adventure stories. I don't mean to be completely gendering literature, but this would have an appeal for young men, most particularly or more often. It won the YALSA Nonfiction Award, Hornbook Magazine Fanfare List Best of 2010, and School Library Journal Best Children's Books of 2010. So it has been has many accolades. Should be a fairly easy sell for anybody who's looking for some adventure. Terrible Typhoid Mary, A True Story of the Deadliest Cook in America. What happens when a person's reputation has been forever damaged? With archival photographs and text, among other primary sources, this riveting biography of Mary Mallon by the Siebert medalist and Newbery Honor winner Susan Bartoletti looks beyond the tabloid scandal of Mary's controversial life. That's from the WorldCat. Energetic, even charming prose will easily engage readers. A thoroughly researched biography, excellent nonfiction by Hornbook Magazine. The audiobook was released in August of 2017, so if you wanted to read this, you can. There is an audiobook version available. One way you might launch this in a book talk is if you know any of the kids' nicknames, because that's sort of fun. My kids attended or do attend the school where I work, and so I know some of the kids' nicknames. You know, I know a kid named Toasty whose nickname is Toasty, and another one who's T-Nasty, and so you could play on the kids' nicknames and then talk about Typhoid Mary as a rather unfortunate nickname. Anyway, that might be a way you could tie this or engage your students or your patrons if you know them well enough. Undefeated, Jim Thorpe and the Carlisle Indian School, also by Steve Sheinkin. This came out in 2017. I have had this circulate at my high school library. So Native American Jim Thorpe became a super athlete and an Olympic gold medalist. Indomitable coach Pop Warner was a football mastermind, and in 1907 at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania, they forged one of the winningest teams in American football history. Again, that's from the WorldCat. Expertly told by 3-time National Book Award finalist Steve Sheinkin. This is a starred review in Booklist, Hornbook, Kirkus School Library Journal, and Publishers Weekly. If a book gets this many accolades, it's got to be good. And I will tell you, I've already had it circulate in my school library without me selling it. So that is speaks to this book. So it would be an excellent choice and a good idea if you're aiming at trying to read some more books that would have appeal to young men in particular. In addition to trying to promote biographies, you may be trying to partner with some of your fine arts teachers. I do some partnerships with fine arts teachers at my school. I also have an AP English teacher who does cross-curricular work, particularly focused on artists. So this book, Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh Brothers by Deborah Heiligman, came out in 2017. It's the true story of the relationship between the brothers Vincent and Theo Van Gogh. That's from the WorldCat. Also highly recommended, and might pique students' interests in these artists, these brothers, and in art in general. And again, this might be a way for you to partner, find some other books on fine arts in your school library, to partner with an art teacher or your fine arts department. I've mentioned WorldCat several times. You might be saying, what is WorldCat? WorldCat.org is the largest library catalog. It is a union catalog with collections of 72,000 libraries in 170 countries and territories. It was created in 1971, and as of January 2013, it contained more than 289 million different records, pointing to 1.9 billion physical and digital assets in more than 470 languages. So this is a way you can access materials or information from all over the world and find out where they are, even if you can't access the material. But it's also a way for you to get sort of little blurbs, information about books that you're interested in either purchasing, or if you need to do a book talk on the fly. This is it. You can look up the book in WorldCat and see if it's got a nice little blurb. I don't usually book talk books that I haven't read. There are several books that I will be talking along the semester that I haven't read. I put them in our lists in order to force me to read them. So I will be reading my little eyeballs out along with y'all during this course, just so you know. All right, so what can WorldCat do for you? Gives you a summary for a book that you can use for your literature log or to do book talks, like I said in the previous slide. Create citations instantly. You can enter your zip code to locate books in a library near you. You can locate similar items. You can create bibliographies, lists, and reviews. It's also available as an app. There's an app for that, y'all. A word to the wise. Read, read, read. I've been a little bit off my game as a graduate student. I know that you guys all have the same struggle. The struggle is real. I've read your introductions and I'm amazed at people who are holding down 2 full-time jobs or juggling 4 children. Bless your heart. I can barely juggle the one that's still at home. So I know it is hard to do, and keep trying. Set yourself 20 minutes. You're worth it. And of course, now you're taking a class. So I know personally, when I have an external motivator, like I'm taking a class, I can really make myself sit down and do stuff. Also, consider getting on your state book award title committee. That was one of the greatest experiences I've had as far as forcing me to read, 1, and 2, exposing myself to a wide variety of literature when I was on the South Carolina Young Adult Book Award committee. And I plan on getting on it again soon. I was just trying to get my kids out of the house because travel, soccer, track, and drama ate a huge amount of my time with my children. And I'm a single parent, so a little bit hard to do. But if you can swing it, get on your state book award committee at whatever age level you prefer. Okay, so anything on the designated award list counts for your required readings, including honor books and nominated books, if that's applicable. Please just make sure you're choosing something that's got some really good reviews. Listen to audiobooks in the car or walking or on your elliptical or whatever it is you do. Unfortunately, I play soccer. I can't listen to a book while I play soccer. But I do get on my elliptical a lot and listen to actually lectures usually. Do not read more than 2 titles by the same author for this class. I know that's hard. It's hard to do, especially if you love John Green or some of the fantasy authors, but spread your wings, learn about new folks, please. Remember that the audiobooks, movies that you read, books and movies that you read, listen to, viewed prior to taking this class do not count. There's an asterisk there, though. Several people contacted me this summer and said they were slow readers. If you were reading ahead this summer to prep yourself for this class, I am a-okay with that. I understand that people read at different rates. I just want you to be reading for this class. And the idea is that you are preparing yourself for your career by learning about new authors and books. So obviously I cannot find out if you have read beforehand or if you read it last semester, unless it's in an assignment you turned in for something. However, it is to your benefit to read new stuff. So please do. And of course, keep up with your assignments and due dates as best as possible. I will continue ironing out any discussion due dates and get those on our class calendar this weekend, now that I finally have time to breathe and I'm not flinging laptops at young adults. As someone who is now getting involved in literature, much more involved in recommending books, keep your eyes out for the ALA 2019 Youth Media Awards. Those are announced at ALA's midwinter meeting. The 2019 meeting is in Seattle and it will be streamed live, so keep your eye out for that. The Youth Media Awards by ALA include Newbery, Caldecott, Prince, and Coretta Scott King Book Awards, and many others. There are newly added diversity honors in the ALA Youth Media Awards, including awards for American Indian Lit, Jewish Lit, and several other things. I'd have to go look again, but keep an eye out for those too. Those lists can help you in your purchasing. I want to warn you that when you are working in a school or public library, you don't have as much time as you think you might to make purchasing decisions. So go right to those Youth Media Awards, buy them. Then you don't have to think. This helps guides librarians, educators, parents, and others in selecting the best materials for youth. You can know that any book that has won an honor or an award on these lists has been reviewed and read by multiple librarians. It's good stuff. Don't worry. Don't stress yourself. Just buy them. Some suggestions for a discussion board for our class. There are forums for reading categories like realistic fiction, graphic novels that are required, and some are optional. All of the required ones will go up over the weekend. So you'll be able to see those by Monday, every required one. All those required dates will also be populated on our calendar. You'll be posting in the forums at different times depending on when you read your books this semester. So some of them there will be several forums that have a due date at the end of November, but if you've already read that book, put your post up. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So the forums will be open, not due till November, but if you read the book in October, put your post up. I'll put more instructions on that. The required forum posts, please pay attention to those deadlines. Those deadlines will also get on the calendar. You need to read your book in that category and post by that deadline. Do not worry, none of those deadlines are next week. You have a little bit of time, and those will also go on our calendar. All right, upcoming assignments. Your review sources worksheet is due by midnight, Tuesday, September 4th. That's a change from the assignment sheet. I'm sorry, I got overexcited at the beginning of the semester and hammered you all. I've settled down. And keep an eye on required reading assignments. Those will be under weekly content again. Required discussion board forum post on 13 Reasons Why is coming up. Share your thoughts about the novel that you read with your classmates. Post by midnight, Thursday, September 13th. So you got a little time before that posting is due. If you're concerned about length of postings, 3 paragraphs is a good general rule. Again, 3 paragraphs is a good general rule for required discussion forum postings. Please do not post a dissertation. If you only post 2 sentences, I don't think you're thinking enough. So hopefully that 3-paragraph guideline will help you. Any questions? Please don't hesitate to email at havercam@email.sc.edu. You can also post questions in the forum. I think I was a little slow on responding to 1 or 2 of you. I apologize for that. Again, I handed out 900 laptops this week and got a little bit overwhelmed. And one person I thought I had responded to, and it didn't post. So I apologize for that. And I will be checking the forum daily. I do absolutely check my email daily, so you can definitely get me that way. And I'm looking forward to reading your first discussion forum. I will comment on everyone over the weekend. And please let me know how it's going. If I have a missing link, broken link somewhere, let me know. I will fix it as soon as I can. Sometimes I can't access from when I'm at work. The filter at work prevents me from doing stuff on Blackboard, so it has to wait until I'm home for the evening, which sometimes is not until 7. But I'm trying to keep up with you guys. Let me know how you're doing, and enjoy your long weekend. Bye.